Welcome, everybody. First off, thank you so much for attending. I really appreciate it. My name is Victoria Rivera, and I'm a wellness psychotherapist. I have a corporate wellness psychotherapist practice where I go to different companies and present wellness workshops and webinars on mental health and wellness, and do one-to-one wellness coaching and group coaching for for departments and employees. One of the things that I've noticed, especially over the last couple of months, that people are really feeling a lot of uncertainty and a lot of anxiety around the workplace, but just in the world in general. But then that also is shown in the workplace. And I've also noticed that a lot of companies and organizations have kind of haven't been able to really provide the mental health and wellness perks and things that they, were providing before or would love to provide. And so I just really wanted to take the day and just celebrate employees and HR people, because and you guys all do so much work for the companies that you work for. And unfortunately, if they're not appreciating you, I want to. So welcome. And let's get to know each other a little bit. So I have a poll, do an icebreaker, and the first one will be on a superpower. So if you could have any superpower at work, what would it be? So take a few moments. Would it be the ability to instantly clear your inbox, never needing coffee but always feeling energized, the power to turn all meetings into emails, teleporting to and from work to avoid the commute? I'm sure, or other. If you have another one, you can share it in the chat because I'm sure there's probably more. Most people would teleport to and from work to avoid the commute. I'm going to imagine that those are my New York City people. Is that true? Most people who live outside of New York generally drive, and it's probably a little bit more of a comfortable ride, whereas taking the subway can be comfortable or cannot. But it's really interesting, actually, that no one said never needing coffee but always feeling energized. I feel like that would probably be the one that I would choose. But thank you so much for sharing that. All right. So let's start off with what employee appreciation actually is and why it matters. And most people would say that feeling appreciated really comes financially from their jobs, and that is true. However, you can be financially compensated at your job and still not feel very appreciated because it's a human need to feel appreciated. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. But for people in HR, they already know this. But for employees, you may not know this, but people who report appreciation, they have a higher retention, lower burnout, they perform better at work, they have increased in job and satisfaction, and the lack of recognition actually happens to be one of the top reasons why employees leave their job. That's why it's important. But the most important thing, honestly, as a human being, and this comes in from the work that we do as therapists and as HR people, is that, we really are just trying to make people feel good. Maybe not all the time feel good, but at least feel good when they're at work, because when people are feeling good at work, when they feel like they're being appreciated and loved in many ways and feel important and value, then they do better work. And the companies want to hear that, but we want to hear that you actually are feeling very good and that you enjoy the work that you're doing. So this is why employee wellness and mental health is really important, and why appreciation is really important. Go to one of my favorite quotes by Maya Angelou is, I've learned that people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did, but people will never forget the way that you make them feel. And our feelings actually, I won't get into too much depth of this because this is a part of, like, maybe the mental health one that I'll be doing in a couple of months. But our feelings actually are the drivers of our bodies, brains, and minds. And a lot of times we don't really recognize that. I heard this really great analogy, and I'll share it with you. A lot of times we think that our rational brain is making the decisions and then our emotions get involved and we have to push the emotions to the side. Like the rational brain is the one driving the car, but actually it's our emotional brain that's driving the car. And our rational brain is hopefully sitting next to us holding our hand saying, "Ooh, maybe we might not want to veer into this way because if we veer this way, if we get angry and pop off at somebody, then, there are all these different consequences. Maybe we should go this way." So that's really what's happening is that we're actually run by our feelings. And so when people make us feel better, they make us feel safe, they make us feel loved, appreciated, valued, then we remember that. And so that's why it's also important in terms of employee wellness. Now, the problem is that there are a lot of workplace stressors that really get in the way of feeling appreciated and feeling valued at work. And here are some common workplace stressors. And the top one really is workloads and unrealistic expectations. I'm sure a lot of you can understand and relate to that because a lot of people will tell me that they feel like they're doing two, three, maybe even four people's jobs, and that the expectations of their work are unrealistic at times. People aren't working 8 hours a day. They're working maybe 10 to 12 hours a day sometimes. And what's really challenging around that is that your brain can only take so much realistically. Like there are a few outliers and a few people, and maybe when you're younger, you're able to kind of like have that, work that amount of time, but eventually you're going to get burnt out. And being burnt out is not helpful for you, surely, and definitely not helpful for your company. Um, Work-life balance is a huge work stressor, and again, that goes back to workloads, unrealistic expectations, job insecurity. I mean, I've been hearing like over the last couple of months, people being very, very fearful around what's going to happen with their job. I mean, we hear in the news, lots of layoffs and things happening. So that even if you feel like your job is fine, the sense in the background, like kind of in your back of your mind, there's always a feeling that maybe things aren't so great. Maybe it's not so secure. And that always impacts us and it impacts our level of stress. And then compensation actually is really kind of 30%, which is interesting. I would have thought it would have been more in terms of stressors, but generally people feel like they're being kind of compensated enough for the work that they're doing. And of course, as you continue to grow in your career, that you increase that compensation. But interestingly enough, as I was doing the research, it looked like, workloads definitely and unrealistic expectations were high at 40%, but lack of appreciation and recognition as an employee, feeling valued as an employee, was 39 to 63%, depending upon the study. So that's a pretty high number. And this is why employee appreciation is really important. So I want to actually do a little something that seems a little bit weird, but it's gonna feel good. How many, if you can share in the chat, how many people know what love languages are and and what your love language is? With couples a lot, and so I will. It's not. I have to tell you, it's really actually not it's not as scientifically studied thing, but it makes a lot of intuitive sense. So quality time. Okay, so people know, oh, okay, the language of emotional connection, acts of service. Okay, wonderful. So what I want is your primary love language. Is it quality time? So quality time would be spending time with people that you love and that you care about. Words of affirmation are getting words of like, I love you, I appreciate you, I love spending time with you. Now, I want you to think of in the context of a relationship with somebody. Gifts are tangible things that, show giving you a gift that they're showing you love. A lot of times that one is a little bit tricky and people feel conflicted about that. But really, like if you grew up in a family where gifts were a big deal, or maybe they weren't such a big deal, that getting like thoughtful gifts is a love language. Acts of kindness, or acts of service is another way of putting it, where somebody just does the dishes for you, they clean, they take care of things. Physical touch, well, that's cuddling, that's hugging, that's like, kissing, all the wonderful things about physical connection. So it looks like we have, quality time, being number one, which I love because I'm a big quality time person. Words of affirmation and acts of kindness and service are tied. No one put gifts. All right, and physical touch has a different way of expressing and receiving their love. And what's really important is if you're in a relationship with somebody, and I always have my couples do this, and even people that I work with just individually, you can go online and you can take the test at your top five love languages. Just type in love language test, you and your partner, and you can find out whether or not what their love language is compared to your love language. Because a lot of times certain people, their top love language could be physical touch, whereas your love language could be acts of service. So here they are wanting to hug you and cuddle you, and you're like, just go and do the dishes or just like sweep the floor. And so it's really important to be able to know that about you, your partner, and about yourself. Now, how does this tie into work and employee appreciation? Well, love and work, there's not that much difference. Work is about a relationship, and it's about a relationship with on many different levels. It's a relationship with your company as a whole and your organization, with your managers, the CEOs, all of those people. It's also it's a relationship with your colleagues and your coworkers, and it's also a relationship with yourself. And so we'll talk a little bit about that later on, but love and work is simultaneously. We can't like kind of like separate that. So it's really important to understand that. And the main thing that when we talk about being appreciated and valued is feeling a sense of that you belong there. Even in a relationship, you want to be with your partner. You want to feel like you are together in this situation together. And you want that same feeling with your work. So there's a huge connection between love and work. And a part of that connection is that there are five love languages or five languages of appreciation in the workplace. And so I'm going to share them. The first one is words of affirmation. So that's definitely one of the top five love languages, just general. So getting verbal or written praise is really important for some people in terms of their work, and that helps. Yes, there's only five, Erica. There could be more, actually. If you can think of more, then you need to write a book about it because that would be wonderful. Quality time is another one, and quality time as seen in the workplace is like having one-to-one meetings with your manager, with your coworkers, your colleagues. Mentorship, that's actually a really great way to express quality time that your company can express quality time to you is that they have a mentorship program. And social activities, as we see here, we have some cocktails. This is actually a quality time love language. Some people love happy hours. They love like connecting with their colleagues outside of work. And who said quality time was our number one? This might be something you might want to kind of think about and put in your mind around what you may need in the future from your work. The other here, acts of service. I mean, acts of service is so many things. Acts of kindness, helping your colleagues, helping your employees lighten the load by giving them support. I know that this is like a tricky one because, as we said, 40% of people have heavy workloads and they're also like feeling stressed and overwhelmed. So it's really hard to get people to kind of help, but it is a big that is an act of appreciation and love. And then we also have tangible gifts. So there are bonuses, which people love, days off. I didn't put that here. I think honestly, if I was an employer and when my company gets ginormous, what I'm going to do is for Employee Appreciation Day, I'm giving everybody the day off because I just feel like we could use just one day where you're not using your PTO or a mental health day or a sick day or anything like that. You're just giving a day of like a thank you day. And I think people would really, really appreciate that. And hopefully some companies do that. I know that Ragnarok actually did mental health days in the past. So I'm hoping that they're still doing that. And then another tangible gift is incentives. or just buying people food and taking care of people in that way. That's very helpful. Seem a little cray cray, but it's not. Physical touch at the workplace is not necessarily like appropriate in many circumstances. Let's just be clear and put that out. But what is appropriate is showing appreciation for a job well done. And sometimes that comes in like a high five. Sometimes that will come in as a pound, but or a pat on the back. But sometimes, if, there's a loss or something happened, a hug from a coworker that's appropriate could be also a sign of physical touch and connection. Human beings we co-regulate with each other. And so physical touch is actually a way in which we do. We've learned that as we were babies with our parents. They would hug us, soothe us, by holding us. And so it is actually a part of calming your nervous system down, especially when you're anxious. Now, we don't want to get anybody anxious at the workplace by touching them inappropriately or even giving them a high five or a pound inappropriately. So, as I say, physical touch is a challenging one, obviously as appropriate and as it's you see fit, right? But the other way that we could actually spin this is career growth. So physical meaning growing and expanding. So promotions, learning opportunities, those are really great ways to show appreciation for your employees. Do another poll, and this is your language of appreciation at work. So what makes you feel the most appreciated at work? Is it verbal recognition? Do you like praise, shout outs, thank you emails, gifts, cards, snacks, celebrations, career growth, mentorship, promotions? If you want to put in the high fives and the pounds, you can put it under career growth if that's one of your love languages. Quality time, the social events, one-to-one meetings. Okay, so it looks like a lot of like verbal recognition, praise, shout outs, nice. Quality time. Are the results. So it looks like verbal recognition got the highest, as well as career growth, mentorship, and promotions, which is important. So great. Wonderful. Now, one of the challenges that we have, especially for companies who are struggling, like I was talking about earlier, is giving recognition to employees by using money and all kinds of things. So one of the things that I always talk about with employees and with companies is being able to recognize that as employees, you have to advocate for your own value. And one way to be able to do that is to ask for feedback and to ask for recognition. And there is nothing wrong with asking your boss like what they thought of a job that you did, especially if they withheld something that that you probably did a good job for. Now, it's not like kind of fishing for compliments, but it's just about like knowing your own value and knowing what you've contributed. And I think that's really important. So being able to feel confident enough to ask for feedback and then also recognition on things that that you did well. And then the other thing is celebrate your personal wins first within yourself. And we know that if we recognize, and a lot of times we're really hard on ourselves and we won't like really take in appreciation from other people, but we probably won't even take appreciation from ourselves. But we know that when we reach a goal or we've done something, a job well done, that we get a dopamine rush. And that actually feels really, really good. Again, to like that feeling of feeling appreciated and valued. Celebrating a job well done that you all did, you guys completed a project or a certain thing was reached, a milestone. Really, really important to kind of celebrate that. Again, that not only gives you that little dopamine like hit, but it also gives the team members that you're celebrating with a hit as well. And to build in self-appreciation and recognize your own strengths. Again, our brains oftentimes criticize ourselves a lot. We have like this little roommate in our head that kind of will say mean things to ourselves sometimes, and we'll criticize ourselves about all the things that we're doing wrong, and we definitely like don't focus on some of the things that we're doing right. So recognizing your own strengths, and if you start to hear that kind of critical voice, say to yourself that you are doing the best that you can given the circumstances, especially if you have any of those workplace stressors where there's the heavy workloads or the not being appreciated. So really kind of recognizing your own strengths is really important. And then setting boundaries to protect your work-life balance. We'll get into that a little bit more. Hopefully we'll have some time to be able to do that. If not, then we'll definitely do that the next time we meet. Hopefully you'll be able to come to my stress management workshop that I'm doing in April, but more to come on that. But setting boundaries to protect work life, which is really important, and you have to do that because other people are not going to be doing that for you. And then the next thing is we know that when we give to other people, like we were, celebrating those team wins, or giving our colleagues and coworkers a little bit of love, we pay it forward. We feel good. So it's a part of like being of service. There's a lot of like psychological studies around how if you have $1 or $10 or whatever, you end up giving it to somebody instead of spending it on yourself, or you spend it on to somebody, then that instead of spending it on yourself, you actually feel better. And that is because we feel good when we're supporting other people. So if your love language is quality time, some other things that you could potentially do that not only help you, but also help your colleagues are, specifically shouting out accomplishments and milestones, even if your boss isn't like doing that, just doing that for yourself and for your coworkers. And then the other thing that you could do around quality time with coworkers is the Pomodoro with a coworker. I don't know if anybody knows what a Pomodoro is, the Pomodoro technique. Has anybody heard that before? Productivity hack that helps you to set time limits. So like say for an hour, you and your coworker decide that you guys are going to work together. Maybe you're doing it virtually, or maybe you're doing it, just, and you're just going to sit and you're going to put your head down. Well, for an hour, you take 50 of those minutes and you actually do the work, but then the last 10 minutes, you put in a break. And you can do that in 20-minute increments where you do 20 minutes of like work and then 5 minutes you take a break. So that's a 25-minute increment. You can do it any way you want to. It's actually a really good technique. If you have ADHD and concentration or attention issues, and let me tell you, who doesn't? There's just so much going on in the world, and like a lot of screens and a lot of like notifications. It's really hard to concentrate, but if you give yourself like 20 minutes and then a 5-minute break, you'll actually do more. You'll be able to complete more work because your brain is like, oh, this is focus time, and you're kind of setting that time. So that's what the Pomodoro is. So I hope that you can use that, and if you could use that with a colleague again, because that will help you with that quality time. Practical strategies for HR, because this is the main reason why we're doing this, is we really want HR and leadership to focus on employee wellness and taking care of employees and advocating for employees, because that's really, really important. So one, like I said, you can advocate for yourself and do all those personal things for yourself and your colleagues, but we also need HR and leadership to take some responsibility. So fostering a culture of appreciation with consistent feedback and with recognition by offering like low cost or high impact recognition strategies. Now, I'm not an expert in that, but I do know there's lots of outsourced reward companies that actually will help HR and leaders go to the financial decision makers and say, hey, look, the ROI on employee recognition and appreciation is this amount of money, and we are losing these amount of employees. If we start having these recognition strategies, we actually could save and help. It's really unfortunate, but a big part of why companies do not do these things is because they don't really see the ROI. When we can see the ROI, which is that we're feeling good and better at work and we're more productive, and we know that. But unfortunately, if that's not like translated to dollar signs, then it's very frustrating. I wish it was different, but it's not. But there's a lot of outsourced reward companies that can help you to create a strategy and help offer that to employees. And I would also say encouraging managers to personalize appreciation efforts. I know managers are very, very busy, and a lot of them aren't really trained on how to like kind of support and take care of their employees. They're trained on, giving instructions, and sometimes they struggle with that. But learning how to personalize appreciation efforts by specifically saying individually, this person, you've been doing this and you've been doing that well, and that is very, very helpful. And the last thing is provide career development opportunities and learning opportunities. That is really helpful. And I know those are some of the practical things that HR leadership could actually do. Now, here are some other things to do. Now, I know virtual is a lot of people are hybrid, or maybe they're meeting virtual. And we noticed during COVID and right after COVID, it was, there's a lot of loneliness and not a lot of people not feeling connected, and not feeling connected to the company, not feeling connected to their coworkers. And so here were some suggestions that I had provided for another company that I worked for, having contests, company-wide challenges to engage employees, to connect and to have that quality time. Coffee and tea chats, create like meetup groups within their Slack channels, virtual workshops, virtual workouts. All of those things are very helpful in helping employees to feel connected and recognized. This other thing called vent time, which is not necessarily popular with managers and leaders, but I love it as an employee because I think it's really important to have time to talk shit, right? Because we all have feelings, and our feelings of frustration can go unheard. Now, it doesn't have to be where, where it's toxic and it's, but it's really about just like verbalizing frustration and having kind of some structured time to be able to like kind of do that. Because when we do that, then that gets it out of our mind, and we can start to problem solve a little bit better, and then we can start to actually be a little bit more productive and feel like we did something. And I'm a big proponent of event time. Setting up in-person meetings, of course, which I talked about earlier, and including virtual while in the office, which I know a lot of companies are doing now, which is great. So in the chat, I want you to share what's one action you can take this week to make yourself feel more valued as an employee within your job. By taking a day off. I love that. Take a day off. Take Monday and Tuesday off. Okay, Erica, I see you taking 2 days off. You know what? And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, you already took a day off. Good. I hope that you're enjoying it, Sandra. Anything else? Was there anything else to advocate for yourself? May is Mental Health Awareness Month. One of the things I think I'm going to do, because I think a big issue that a lot of people will struggle with around work and advocating for themselves is a sense of like confidence, but the confidence is really impacted by anxiety. And so in May, when I do this again, we'll focus on anxiety and how to kind of advocate for yourself, feel confident enough to advocate for yourself. So that's great, Kelly. Watch my soaps at work and hope no one comes to talk to me. Right. Yes. Yes. That is like, that sounds amazing. That is a great way to appreciate yourself. Make time to do more trainings, professional development. Yes. Yes. Growing for yourself. That's really important. Okay. Thank you guys. Thank you everybody for sharing. And then for our HR people, if you're online, which I think few of you are, what's one thing that you think you can implement to foster appreciation in your workforce? Is there anything that you think that you could do that would help your employees, help help advocate for services, for wellness workshops, promote more to ones, vent time, perfect. Longevity, gift cards. Thank you. Thank you, Bob. All right, wonderful. Promote more to one-to-one meetings, mentor, encourage self-care, give kudos for the work. Yes, yes, yes. Treat others like adult. Show that you have trust. Yes. Yeah. Trust is another tricky situation too, both in relationships and at work. But yes, it's great to foster that. And having self-care helps to foster trust, mentoring, providing support, all of that. Even the vent stuff is trusting. You're building like a sense of psychological safety, which is important in the workplace. So I want to just take a moment and to just kind of answer any questions or any thoughts or anything that anybody might have. And I think you can take yourself off of mute.
Victoria, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Hi, this is Aki Cipriani. Um, so I put a question in the chat, but I'll pose it to you here. We were talking about love languages, and I was curious if we should be asking our staff members their preferred love language. And if so, what's the best way to go about that? Do we call it love language or do we call it something else?
Wow. Yes. Thank you so much for asking that question because if you ask them what their love language is, they may look at you and call yourself on
Exactly.
yourself.
Yeah.
Call
Yeah.
HR on HR.
Exactly.
So, actually, the person who wrote the five lung languages is Gary Chapman, and he wrote this book with Paul White. I don't know if you can see this, if you guys can see me, in the book that I have up, which is the five languages of appreciation at the workplace. So, how you frame it is you frame it as language of appreciation in the workplace. I can actually, I'll connect to. I'll send it. Oh, perfect. Great. Yeah, so that would be a way. And actually there is a test. If you buy the book, there's a test that you can do, but you may be able to find it online anyways. And that could help you assess and give your employees a sense of what their love their language of appreciation is. I wanted to share the way that we kind of all know it, which is as love language, because the connection is that we are all connected as human beings and we are in relationships both in and out of work, and everybody can connect to a love language generally in the five love languages. And I think the languages of appreciation is a better way of like doing it. Yep. Thank you. Thank you, Miss Taylor. Yes, appreciate it. Yes. Can you repeat the name of it? Yep. Five languages of appreciation in the workplace, empowering organizations by encouraging people. So now we're going to get into how do you take care of yourself? Again, in April, I'll be doing another stress management uh, workshop because April is Stress Awareness Month. But I'm going to give you just a few tools. Now you're looking at this and you're probably thinking, widen your view. What the heck does that even mean? And what is that going to do at all to make me feel less stressed and overwhelmed? So I'll get into this a little bit more again next time when we do the stress management one. But believe me when I tell you that your brain, your mind, and your body are all connected. And when you do something different physically with your body, it actually influences how you feel. And there's a few ways that evolutionary psychology, biology, and physiology has created for us to get ourselves into a more relaxed state of being. When we are stressed, we're actually in this fight, flight, and freeze part of our body that is getting us ready to take some sort of action. And the opposite of that fight, flight, and freeze is this other part called that is more of the rest, digest, uh, more relaxed. And unfortunately, a lot of us are in that fight, flight, and freeze more often than we're in that rest and digest and relaxation. Now, it makes sense, right? Because we're at work, we're not really supposed to be like, resting as much, but we really want to toggle between kind of being like alert and calm. And that's like when those two systems are balanced. The issue is a lot of times we're in this fight or flight and we know that we're in this fight or flight, or maybe we don't even know that we're in this fight or flight. But there are a few things that happen when we are in this fight or flight. And one is that our eyes narrow. And unfortunately, because we're all looking at a computer as well or our phones, our eyes are actually naturally narrowing to the screen. So we may be inadvertently putting ourselves into this fight, flight, and freeze. So one of the best things you could do that is an immediate kind of like calming down of your nervous system or actually helping to balance it out is to widen your view. So that means taking your eyes and externally kind of like looking at the periphery. So not just looking at the computer screen, or if you're in an office meeting and you're starting to feel anxious and upset, like just widen the view and look at everybody in the room. If you can, a great thing to do is look at the window and look at the sky, because what that does is it helps your eyes interpret the environment as being safe and will calm your nervous system down. And again, we won't go into like the sense of safety and all of that. That's more for the stress management workshop. But widening your view is the number one thing that you can do if you're feeling overwhelmed, stressed, and anxious. I know it sounds crazy, but try it and start to make a habit of doing it, especially as you're just like kind of on your computer and you don't necessarily have to look directly at it. You just kind of have to look kind of around it. Maybe you're in a meeting or something. Start to widen your view and open up the periphery, and that will help. So that's number one tip. The second tip is to breathe through your nose. Now, do we have any runners here? Any like marathon runners or anybody who exercises, anything like that? When you are exercising and you're running, your body starts to get into it's in the fight or flight. Really, you're actually putting yourself in the fight or flight. And your breath starts to shorten because your chest is trying to get as much oxygen. And what you'll notice is you will start breathing more with your chest and less with your belly and your lungs. And what happens is you start breathing through your mouth. And when you're breathing through your mouth, you're actually increasing that fight or flight system as well. Because again, our bodies, brains, and minds are all connected. So, one really simple thing that you can do is if you are sitting at a computer or if you're walking, notice if you have your mouth open and if you're breathing through your mouth, and close your mouth and start breathing just through your nose. I know that that sounds, again, simple, but these are like biological processes that we kind of forget, and we can get into that mouth breathing and not really realizing that we're doing it. And if we start to be more cognizant and more aware and we get into their nasal breathing, you'll actually get yourself more into that calm part of the nervous system. So again, we know when we're running or jogging or we're doing something active, we start breathing through our mouth. Some people are just doing that throughout the day and actually doing it at night too, which leads to a lot of different problems. And I know that some people have probably heard of mouth taping at night. If you are waking up with a dry mouth in the morning, or if you have any issues with sleep apnea, well, you have to really talk to your doctor about that. But if you're waking up with a dry mouth, we'll just like say that you may be breathing through your mouth inadvertently and you don't know that. So you could put a little piece of tape on your mouth. You don't have to cover the whole thing, and that will help you to breathe through your nose. A lot of people do have a deviated septum, or they have issues with allergies and stuff like that. So it really is hard for them to breathe through their nose. But if you can force yourself to breathe through your nose, and your nose will get used to it. There's a really great book called Breathe by James Nestor. I have it like right here, and it talks about the connection between anxiety and our breath and breathing, and how breathing through our nose is a way that we can naturally calm ourselves down. So that's the second tip. And then the next tip is the physiological sigh, which is 2 short inhales and 1 long exhale. So this has been shown to be very, very helpful in managing stress, and not only stress in the short term, but also stress in the long term. It wasn't a scientific study, but it was done by this neuroscientist who was working with people, and they did the physiological sigh, and they did it for 5 minutes a day. And in doing this exercise 5 minutes a day, they reported decrease in overall stress. And it makes a lot of sense when you know the science around it. So the science is that the two short inhales actually kind of get your nervous system activated. So if you think that fight and flight is really really inhales, and our parasympathetic part of the nervous system, that like relaxation, that calm, is the exhale. So the exhale is what we want to focus on. But in order to kind of rebalance your system when you're in more of an anxious state, and this is actually really great if you're having an anxiety attack or if you're having a panic attack, uh, counterintuitive to give two short inhales and one long exhale, but you do that for just a couple of like cycles, and your body starts to rebalance. So I will show it to you, and then I will like you guys to follow me in doing it. So the physiological side goes like this: two short inhales. So just when you think you can't have any more air in your nose, you do it again. So it's and one long exhale out your mouth. You can do it out your nose too. But so I'll do it again. So let's take a moment and do a couple of cycles together. Two short inhales and then the long exhale. Anybody notice anything after trying that for a few moments? If you'd like to, can take yourself off mute or share it in the chat. The animals do this instinctively. We do this instinctively too. We feel lighter. Yes, thank you. More centered. And that's something again that you can do when you're feeling really stressed out, or 5 minutes a day. You can sit with yourself in the morning and just do the physiological sighs. It definitely, yeah, makes you feel more at ease. Yeah, because what it's doing is it's balancing those two systems. It's balancing out your fight or flight system and your rest and relax system. Those are the three tips that I have on how to manage stress in real time, and also overall the widening your view, breathing through your nose, and then doing the physiological sign. I want to sigh. I want to thank you for your time and for your attention. And I've been mentioning over the course of this that I'm going to be doing a few more. In April, I'm going to do a stress management workshop, and that I'll be talking a lot more about what those three things are doing, what some of the biological processes that are happening in you as to why you can't manage your stress. And every time I go to a doctor, they always will say, "Well, are you stressed? Well, you need to learn how to manage your stress." And I'm just like, yeah, that's like telling me to. It's like telling anybody to just like stop thinking. I mean, how does that even happen? Like, there's so I'll give you real tools, just like I did today, around how to actually manage your stress and figure out how to take care of yourself when you're in a really stressed state, and how to have a more balanced nervous system, because that's actually what you need when we talk about stress management. And May is Mental Health Awareness Month. That's going to be very exciting. I love that you talked about confidence and advocating for yourself. I think what I'll focus on then for May for mental health awareness is anxiety, and how that impacts us in terms of our confidence and advocating for ourselves. So we'll work on that. And then June is Employee Wellness Month, and we appreciate everybody coming and joining. You can follow me on LinkedIn, Victoria Rivera, Wellness Psychotherapist. And I have an Instagram where I do just wellness tips for the week. It's Mental Health Wellness Wednesday, and then that's my my business card or all of my information. Thank you everybody so much. I really, really appreciate it. It's been such a pleasure to connect with you and to work with you for this short period of time. And I hope that you can come. I will send you all emails, thank you emails after this, and then I will also send you information around when I'll do the other workshops. So thank you so much. Have a great week. Enjoy Employee Appreciation Day.